Counting us down to the closing bells here on this Friday afternoon. And we're actually seeing a lot of trading activity in these final few minutes. A lot of that centered around some of these chip stocks. A big spike down in Applied Materials, a big spike down in Qualcomm. No real news here. So this might be some folks are just kind of repositioning into next week.
Yeah, repositioning into a new week, a new month, a new quarter. It is, I mean, just to reflect on what we learned this week, you think about Micron coming out, again, blockbuster numbers as we've been talking about, but then you think about the moves that Apple took the day after, raising prices, and this fear out there that some of these supply bottlenecks that we're seeing, while it has fantastically benefited some of these names, that could eventually snap back, and maybe we start to see some demand destruction.
Absolutely, and we start to talk about this idea as to how you even assess that. Do you really pay attention to the fundamentals of these companies? Do you pay attention to the narrative? We are here in the final moments of trading on this Friday afternoon, and it looks like most of the major indices are going to finish the day in the red, and for the most part in the week, with a couple of notable exceptions. We want to give these numbers just a minute to settle, given how close they are to the waterline mark. But it does look like the Dow Jones Industrial Average is going to finish in the red on the day, down about 80 points, or roughly about 0.2%. Though we should point out it's going to finish the week in the green, up about 0.4%. The S&P 500, I think that's the one we really want to wait for these numbers to settle. 73.52 and change. That's down about 5 points, down less than 0.1%. That's going to be the fifth straight day of declines, and that's the first time that's actually happened on the year. On the week, they're down about 2% for the S&P 500. The NASDAQ Composite and the NASDAQ 100 each sliding on the day. The NASDAQ 100 down about 1% and down about 4% on the week. And let's take a look at the Russell 2000. A modest gain on the day, Katie, up about 0.1%.
So the little guys managing to squeak out a gain for the S&P 500. An interesting wrinkle here, more than 300 names finishing in the green, but it was all the important ones that fell. And we can see that when we take a look at the circle, at the sector level here. You had 6 sectors finish in the green, 5 in the red. In terms of what didn't perform today, which was a huge weight on the index overall, information technology, where a lot of those chip names live, down about 1%. That shaved nearly 29 points off the S&P 500. Industrials also not having a great finish to the week. In terms of what did perform today, you saw a big pop in Eli Lilly. As such, healthcare as a sector higher by about 3%. Consumer discretionary and real estate also posting pretty sizable gains on this Friday, Romaine. Yeah,
let's take a quick look at yields. It was a little bit of a story earlier in the year, but we should point out the 10-year Treasury actually rallying now for a third straight week, and that's pushing yields down on a weekly basis by about 8 basis points. You see the drop on your screen there today of about 2 basis points. A little more activity on the 2-year yield, which is down 4. But then you talk about the dynamics of this curve with the long end of the curve. That 30-year yield is ever slightly higher there on the day. And that could become a much bigger part of the story as we move deeper into the year and closer to that next Fed meeting.